I'm just preparing for all the Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey hate in the comments. Hi guys! Okay, so I have been reading some more, yay! First things first, happy Pride Month everybody. If you don't celebrate Pride, happy Thursday to you all. The Isle of Wight actually won the UK's like National Pride Month thing. Our celebration is going to be held on the little Isle of Wight where I'm from. I'm so excited, and I'm going to be doing like a whole bunch of vlogs for Pride to try and make up for the fact that my vlogs have been very sporadic over the past few months. I'm very sorry, that is because the house move, of course, and I'm glad to say that is over. I have moved in. I am in a new whole place. I bet you didn't notice because I didn't change my setup. Yes, so I'm really sorry. Thank you guys for hanging in with me whilst I was getting all my stuff moved from one place to the new place, but I'm here now, so hopefully things will be a bit smoother and more regular. Okay, so the book that I just read, as you can guess from the title, is Crazy Rich Asians, and I feel really guilty, I didn't know about this book before I saw the trailer for the movie, and I was very excited by the trailer for the movie. I was like, like an all Asian cast, that's amazing. You never see that in like Western films, like outside of like just Asian only films. You really don't see almost a predominantly Asian cast. This is very, very exciting. This is going to be spoiler free, but I will talk about the things that I liked, I didn't like in sort of somewhat vague terms, and I really do want to hear from you guys, and of course it's just my opinion. If you guys love it, if you haven't read it yet, whatever, tell me what you think. Are you going to read it? Leave me a comment down below telling me what you loved, didn't love, or what you're excited about it, or what you're excited about the movie for, because I'm very excited about the movie and therefore I wanted to read the book first because I'm a purist. So a Chinese-born American girl called Rachel Chu is dating a guy. She's been with him for about 2 years, and he is from Singapore. This couple have been together for a while, and he decides to take her to Singapore to meet his family. Now, she doesn't know this yet because weirdly he never discussed it with her. Red flag right there, honey. But his family are super, super wealthy. Doesn't sound all that interesting yet, does it? But it does get a bit more interesting. Yeah, so she has to navigate these insanely opulent, ridiculously wealthy situations that she's never come across before, and we're right there with her as a reader kind of going, they did what? Like, this isn't normal, but to them it's perfectly normal. So it's quite an interesting like culture shock, and sort of hijinks ensues, and it turns out that this guy is like considered an incredibly eligible guy in Singapore because he's so wealthy and hasn't been married yet, and she's suddenly thrust into the middle of all this gossiping and backstabbing and conniving and manipulating, all to get at this guy and the money that is around him, and she's just not prepared for it. And I really liked the concept, and yeah, I think I'm gonna start off with the things that I liked, because there were quite a few and there were some things I didn't like. But I'm gonna start off positive, as always, with the things that I really liked. Number 1, Rachel is not a Bella, and she is not an Anastasia. Yes! Finally. So when I was reading the synopsis and everything, I thought, this sounds a little bit like a 50 Shades of Grey sort of thing, you know, like some super wealthy guy meets some like ordinary girl and sees what's so special in her that nobody else has ever seen. And I hate that. I hate it. Like, I hated it with Twilight, I hated it with 50 Shades of Grey, I hate it with like loads of books that do this, where the girl is somewhat unextraordinary and yet it takes some magical guy to see past all her boringness and to see the magic within her and the, you know, the beauty within her. And it's like, screw it, because that is entirely telling women that they're worth nothing apart from the value that a guy puts on her. So if he can see value in her, then she has self-worth. If he doesn't, then she's worth nothing. And oh god, that gripes me. So Rachel in the book has confidence, she's intelligent, she's not a nobody, she is a economics professor. I love that. Smart girls, we do not get enough representation in books, and I really like that this is a smart woman with a relationship, and it's not presented as a unicorn situation. It's not like, oh, it's so rare that this girl has a good job and manages to have a relationship. No, it's just presented as, this is Rachel, meet her. You know, this is perfectly normal, and I think that's much more reflective of actual modern day society. You know, women can actually have careers and loving relationships and families or whatever at the same time. It doesn't have to be you choose between the two. You're a housewife or a career woman and you're alone forever. So I really liked that aspect of it. That perfectly leads into my next favourite thing, which is, it is actually quite a nice example of a healthy adult relationship between equals. Both of them make money, they work for their money, they don't just magically have it. I mean, it turns out he does, but but he doesn't take hands out, so he is also a professor. It's a really nice, again, sorry, I'm talking about Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, but there's this huge disparity of power in those relationships because the guy has money or because the guy has magical vampire strength. The girl is completely at his mercy, and this one is kind of much more a great example of it's a healthy balance. I put in stuff, you put in stuff, and then that is how we live. I don't live off of the man, and I really like that example. And again, I don't think healthy relationships get enough representation in media, so I was quite excited to see this. On to the money, which is the main theme of the whole book, I would argue. I think, again, compared to some of the other like mainstream books and things that feature an enormous amount of wealth, this really focuses, I'd say the main point of this story is the corruption of wealth and how having this crazy amount of money can warp your everyday sense of family, of valuing people and your life and other people's lives. You get to see a lot of different perspectives from other characters with money and characters without money, and you see some people like really striving, they want what other people, all the people around them, they think everybody has it better. Again, I think a lot of the times the money aspect comes with the fantasy of hot guy who is confident and has power and all this, and also has a load of money and cars and apartments and things like that. It's not really looked at as the plot device of he has a lot of money and therefore we're going to look into how the money affects his personality or his relationship with the girl. It's purely just as a bonus. He's hot, and by the way, he's loaded. Like this one, it's kind of flipping that concept because Rachel doesn't know that he's wealthy. When she gets together with him, she doesn't know that he's rich, and so she's not gold digging or kind of going, it's an added bonus that he's massively wealthy. She's initially like really a little bit horror struck that the amount of wealth, she's disgusted by the amount of wealth that this family has and is just flaunting around. So I just think that's, again, that's a really interesting look at how the money isn't seen as this amazing bonus, it's seen as a corrupting force, and it's very much an antagonist in itself. It's almost a personified antagonist because the money is underlying all of the characters' problems. One of the things that I was most excited for about this book, and what I'm most excited for about the film, is this is a mainstream book and hopefully movie that tells us that there are more types of Asians than just Chinese people. And yes, that sounds racist, but a lot of the time, and I've overheard this loads of times, people going, oh, that Chinese guy, or that Chinese woman, and she might be Korean, or he might be Japanese, or, you know, Vietnamese, or from Singapore, all different. There's so many different. Asia's a huge place, and there's so many different types of Asian people from different places. So when I heard the Total Crazy Rich Asians, and I read about it and actually started reading the book, you've got people from all different cultures, from all different countries, and there's all different languages and all different like customs things. I thought that was hugely exciting because, again, as Westerners, I'm sorry, I'm generalizing. Some of you might be like historians in Asian culture, who knows? But yeah, it's really not like demonstrated enough that there are different types of Asians. There's not just one type. This book is super descriptive, to a fault in some places, and I'll get on that in the stuff that I didn't like, but where it really, really shines is when it's describing the food. In this book, I can taste the food. Damn, this is good. It's almost like reading a menu of just deliciousness, and there's a lot of food in this book, really. It just kind of like pops in and out, and every time it gets like some really nice description of the look of it, the taste of it, and that really helps sort of create the atmosphere and the mood for the whole book, and really makes me just want to go to Singapore and eat everything in sight. Honestly, one of my favourite things is actually the little side plot to Rachel and her main journey that she goes on is actually a character called Astrid and her marriage with a guy called Michael. Astrid is part of the extremely wealthy family, and the guy that she married is not particularly wealthy. He's successful in his own right, but he doesn't have inherited wealth, and again, money plays a huge part in their marriage and the relationship that they have and the developments. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I really found their plot actually more enjoyable and more intriguing than Rachel's, and because I think it's really interesting again to see a woman of means and how she has to relate to her husband who doesn't have as much money, and because again those traditional gender roles are swapped round, where, you know, the guy's normally the breadwinner and things. It's just really interesting to see that how money plays a part in their relationship, and just the stuff that happens to Astrid is just really interesting, and I really like the character, and yeah, I want to see more of her. And also I really, in the movie, I see who's playing her, and I looked it up on IMDb and I really like the actress, so I'm really excited to see the movie because I want to see more of her. That being said, let's get on to some of the stuff that I didn't like, and again, it's just my opinion. Please feel free to disagree with me civilly in the comments, but again, without spoiling, I don't feel like the ending resolved anything. I feel like the characters started off with a certain level of problems, and by the end of the story, all of those problems were still there. Nothing was resolved. So it was really weird, and I don't know whether they did that on purpose. The writer Kevin Kwan, I don't know if perhaps he was trying to make some sort of societal point that our problems never really go away, but I don't think it's actually that in depth. I think it's just he didn't resolve any of the plot lines. So yeah, so it was, when I finished it, I was kind of left kind of going, hang on, what happened there? What happened to them? What happened to this? Did that go away? Did they solve that? Is that finished now? Like, it was just really odd, and I didn't have any sort of sense of closure, which normally when a book is finished you have some closure, and there was just none here. It was weird. You know what I said about the description really working for the food? Yeah, it doesn't work for some of the other stuff. Again, 50 Shades of Grey suffered from this a little bit in the first like few chapters when they're describing the building. Grey, steel, tall, cold, hard, steel, and I was just like, you could have got away with that with just, it's a grey angular building, and then we can see it. You don't need to go OTT with all of the words in the English language strung together. It was overwhelming, and it completely took away from the plot and the narrative that was going on, because it was just like, oh, I know these characters are having some sort of revelation over here, but have a look at this bench. This bench is gold and it has lions on it and it's carved and it's very cold to touch and it's large and it was just over the top. I was like, I don't care about the bench. Can we go back to what they were doing, please? It really felt like you were ping-ponging between the actual action and the decorative scenery. It was just really odd and jarring. Again, one of the things I was most excited for was delving into the fact that it was different Asians and the Asian culture. And I've got to say I was a little bit disappointed in that aspect, because it doesn't really go into different Asian cultures that much. Sure, the people are there and representing their countries, and not too stereotypical, which was fab, but yeah, it didn't really go into any like religions, particularly customs. Didn't terribly talk, like a couple of characters have a wedding in the book, and doesn't really, other than describing the decoration and the dress, it doesn't really talk about, is there anything different about Singaporean weddings? What are the customs there? That opportunity was kind of missed. It was much more focused on the culture of money and these particular people having money. So there's not like massively developed characters in this, but one of the things I really got annoyed about was the best friend trope. And this, you see this in like romantic comedies and like all sorts of movies. Poor Viola Davis, before she was discovered to be actually the gem that she is, she was always cast as like the best friend. And Picklin, the character Picklin, who I always think of as a pickle now, she's the best friend, and she's very much the best friend trope. Her development is non-existent because she's purely there to be a bounce off for Rachel to be like, I feel this, and Picklin's like, sure, carry on talking to me about your feelings, because that's all I'm here for. And she didn't have a storyline of her own. We know her, she's also wealthy, of course, and she went to university with Rachel, and she has a family, but there's nothing else there. And I think if a character's there, they should have something for themselves as well. All characters are plot devices, but give them a personality, and she was purely there just as a bounce off for the other characters to then be like, this is how I really feel. So the plot is fairly straightforward in most places. It just sort of like ticks along, apart from right before the end, again no spoilers, right before the end, but there is an insane plot twist that just comes out of nowhere and again doesn't really get resolved. It's just like we're on one sort of story and then all of a sudden it kind of goes way really weirdly for no apparent reason. I didn't see it coming and I was confused when it did, when I arrived there. I was like, where am I now? Now, my final thing, so I've got most things that I liked, didn't like. I have one thing that I hated. I feel really bad because I never hate anything, but yeah, I really hated this. And this will only be for the people who've listened to it on Audible, because if you're reading it in your own voice. But I'm really sorry, but I did not rate the narrator at all. And they made a valiant effort to do all of the accents, which, yeah, bravo for doing that. But the entire thing in the book, it's very, very clear that certain characters have English accents, certain characters have Chinese accents, certain characters have, you know, all sorts of like different, because there's so many different cultures and so many different nationalities there, which is fantastic. There's supposed to be like a real array of accents, which like I say, the narrator does do. However, she swaps the accents for the same character. So she'll be like starting off in an English accent and then suddenly in the middle of the same character sentence end in a Chinese accent, and vice versa. And it kept happening. And Rachel is one of the only characters that is supposed to have an American accent. She's the only one who gets to have the same accent throughout the book. Everybody else has this weird mashup. It's just bizarre when you're listening to it, especially when there's a lot of times when the writer actually says, he said in his clipped British accent, and then the narrator's saying the line in a Chinese accent, and I'm like, no, what are you doing? There was a weird Indian accent in there for a character that's supposed to be Chinese. There was like, oh man, it was just all over the place, and it really, again, so distracted from the story, because when somebody's saying about this lovely Chinese accent and somebody's talking in a dodgy, like, faux Indian accent, it's just weird, and it comes across slightly racist, even though obviously that wasn't her intention. She was trying to do her best to do this huge array of accents, which again, I wouldn't be able to do, so bravo to you, but it didn't sound right, and it was really weird. Anyways, yeah, so all of that being said, I didn't hate it. I liked the concept, and again, I think it's got some really good points in there where it's refreshing to see people's relations to money in that way. It's refreshing to see a character who doesn't hate herself, a main female character who doesn't hate herself. I haven't seen that in books in ages. Again, I 100% recommend it if you have any interest in Asia or Singapore or a Chinese-born American or anything like that. Let me know what you think. Are you going to see the movie as well? I still really want to see the movie, even though I didn't love the book. I actually think from the trailer, the movie looks like they're going in a slightly different direction in a lot of different things, and we probably wouldn't have the over description problem as well, because of course, and we wouldn't have the narrator problem, because hopefully the actors can all stick to their one accent. They don't have to do like 7, so it looks like a colourful fest of beautiful culture and country and language mashup, so I'm really excited for it. So let me know in the comments down below, did you like it? Did you hate it? What bits did you agree with me? What bits didn't you? Are you going to read it now because of this? I get so excited when you guys say that you're going to read stuff because I've recommended it. I love that, thank you. Anyways, and yes, if you haven't subscribed already, please do, because I have a whole bunch of vlogs from Pride coming up, which is this weekend, and I'm so excited. I think I'm gonna like paint my face and just do a load of crazy stuff. It's gonna be massive, and yeah, I'm gonna wave my rainbow flag proudly. Thank you so much for liking, commenting and subscribing, and I'll see you in the world. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.